Hello, 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 and welcome back to an all new episode here on the Survivor podcast. As always, my name is Darius Cook, and today I am joined by the queen of Survivor content creation. Yes, a legend within the Survivor community. I am joined by Survivorteg. Tegwyth, how are you doing?
Oh, I'm so good. I'm so excited to talk about the episode with you this season. I love what you're putting out this season. I love seeing new faces in the Survivor community, especially online. So I just am excited to talk to you today.
Awesome, yes. And before we dive into it, we're going to be talking all things episode 5, Survivor 50. I do just want to say I've been a fan for a long time. I know anyone who's watching my stuff has certainly seen your content before, because like I said, you are the queen of Survivor content. I've been a fan for many years. So again, thank you for joining me. I am truly honored.
Oh my gosh, of course. And it's really fun because when I started making Survivor content, it was back in 2021 was season right before season 41 was when I started doing it. And it was a much different landscape. It wasn't a ton of people, and it was just, me and a couple of other people. And I just love that now I'm seeing so many more people like you, like other content creators who are putting their thoughts and their ideas out there because I think one thing that the Survivor community really, really craves is more thought, more discussion, and people love to know that they're not like alone in loving Survivor. And so I love it. So I'm excited to chat. I'm happy I'm here.
Yeah, yeah. I've only been covering it for a couple seasons now. It's so fun to be a part of this online space of other people that enjoy Survivor. Because in my personal life, it's kind of hard to find people, but online, everyone's so welcoming. It's such a good time to break it all down. Speaking of breaking it down, let's break it down, Tag. We're talking episode 5 of Survivor 50. This was a very fun episode, in my opinion. But generally speaking, how are you feeling about Survivor 50 overall? You've covered multiple seasons now. How is Survivor 50 from the point of view of someone who has been covering Survivor for a number of years?
I love the season. Genuinely, I think it is so much fun. Obviously, there are always no season of Survivor is going to be perfect, right? Like there are going to be some faults, and when you're watching it live and you've got a week to think about the episode and think about the moves and think about whatever else, things are going to pop up that you maybe don't necessarily love. But I still think that this season is better than honestly you might I wasn't covering at the time, but better this is better than season 40. And I people might be mad at me for that, but I do believe that it is genuinely such a good season, and it's probably the best returning player season we've had since Second Chances so far. And I'm a happy gal. I'm really, really a happy gal with this.
That's a pretty hot take. Bigger and better than 40. That's a pretty hot take, I will say. Coming into the season, I was low expectations. I wanted to be excited, but there were a couple things that had me worried, down to the casting and the celebrity involvement, all that crazy stuff. But I will say, from where we are, my expectations have been blown out of the water. I'm having so much fun. It is a celebration of 50 seasons of Survivor.
1,000%, 1,000%. It is. And obviously, when we know who the cast is going to be, about a year in advance, maybe 8 months in advance, we're going to have plenty of time to hate on it, to pick it apart, all of this stuff. But what I think happened when they announced the cast so early on is that people like me had time to. I went through the stages of grief. And I went through all of the stages, and then it took me about 8 months, but I came to the acceptance stage. And I do think that this cast is relatively interesting. I think that we're getting a lot of different perspectives. Some I don't love, but I do think that we are getting a lot of really fun content here. There are people that I do think that we should have seen on the season, Jerry being one. I would have loved to see Rob Sesternino or Penner. But I do think that what we have in front of us is still really good. And comparing it, to the what if of having these other people that we probably know that we wanted, not probably, we know that we wanted, is going to be is kind of like it's impossible because we never know what would have come of it. So I'm happy with what we have now. So we'll see if it continues forward.
Yeah, I have faith that we are in the best timeline possible. Of course, we'll see how that is over the course of the season. But let's dive into episode 5. This episode picks up right where the last episode ended off with the massive blindside against Mike White. Of course, we see Ozzy is pissed about this. Ozzy is eating sour grapes back at camp, and then he sleeps it off, and then seemingly wakes up with the opposite attitude, where he's like, "Kumbaya, Mister Happy Smiles, Ozzy." What did you think of this whole sequence and like Ozzy's reaction of the Mike White boot?
Yeah, so we saw a little bit of Ozzy and a little bit of Oscar last night. Ozzy said that he was going to play more like Oscar and less like Ozzy, and I do think that in this whole episode we saw Ozzy and Oscar fighting each other, essentially. Ozzy being the burned, scorned person who was blindsided, who really wants to fight for somebody that he wanted to work with, somebody who he sees, I'm seeing my game go up in flames because I had this idea of working with this one person. Everybody lied and betrayed me. And how can I work with these people moving forward? And then we see throughout the episode Oscar coming through. And we see it first in the morning when he meditates, he realizes he takes some time and separates himself from, the situation. But he did basically say, I might forgive, but I'm not going to forget. And throughout the episode, we also saw he wasn't really ready to forgive either. It was only when Christian showed him that trust, that, hey, here is what I'm thinking. I mean, here is, a token that I want to work with you, is when I feel like Ozzy was really going to be like, okay, I guess I can actually work with him. And Christian didn't even get a vote at the tribal council. But I will say, I liked seeing the kind of hot-headedness, the kind of old school Survivor peek through. Because I feel like in New Era, it's such a fast game. People are like, well, I'm gonna push my emotions down. Doesn't happen all the time, but we don't really see blowups like this anymore because they're like, well, I gotta work with this person. And sometimes we just need to see that old school peek through just a teeny tiny bit, and I loved it.
Yeah, Ozzy was one of the players that I was curious about his casting. I felt like I've seen Ozzy play so many times. I don't need any more Ozzy. But what we're getting this season is a bit of that old era, which I like. He's stirring the pot. He's got beef with Coach and everyone like that. So we get that funness. But I got to give it to him. Ozzy does seem to evolve. For everyone that says this is Coach 4.0 or Kobe 3.0, whatever you want to say, I think Ozzy actually is the perfect example of that, of someone who is adapting. He is adapting his gameplay, his communication style, even the thought of coming up with the idea of "Can you give me your shot in the dark?" from Christian to kind of force him to show a show of loyalty, especially with a tribal of 5 people. I thought was a bold move, but also a sign that Ozzy is adapting with the times. In addition to that, I really enjoyed Christian's read on the whole situation and how this interaction is a lot like Cochran and Ozzy of an older season, and I love the editing. Honestly, this season has been great with pulling in scenes from previous seasons without diving too long into it, but just reminding us of those moments. I just thought that was a great moment. Excellent narration, as always, from Christian, of course. Everything about the sequence I just thought was great, and I came out of it appreciating Ozzy as a player even more.
Now, Darius, I have a question for you. I know this is your podcast, but I have a question for you.
Lay it on
When
me.
when we saw that Christian and then imposed Cochran moment, do you think that at all could be foreshadowing a Christian win this season?
Oh my
I know,
goodness.
I know Cochran does not win South Pacific, but Cochran was an overly edited winner from his Caramoan season. He got like 4 billion confessionals in Caramoan. And we all, including myself, are saying Christian can't win. He's way too over edited. He has way too many confessionals. But you know who was also over edited? Cochran. And we see Cochran and Christian being compared right off the bat in this episode. Do you at all think that that could be possible?
Wow, you're kind of blowing my mind right now because one of my biggest talking points, I watched the show with my wife and I'm like, wow, we just, Christian is the main character of the season. Like we get so much of him that it is hard to believe. And I thought he was going home this episode. Halfway through, I was like, I think Christian is up. I think you might be onto something. And I never even really thought to compare Cochran to Christian before this episode. Yes, they're both in that nerdy archetype, but for some reason they didn't seem that similar of players to me. But now that you mention it, you might be onto something here, Tag. If I was going to bet on it, I'd say no. I think we've gotten too much Christian. It seems too obvious, but would I love that outcome? Yes. Call this Survivor 50 in the hands of Christian Hubicki. That would be great.
I mean, I also don't really think it's happening. But that being said, I do like this idea of a potential. I like when, the editors play with it like this and foreshadow something this far, in the beginning of the season, this early on in the season, to a potential win. I just thought this was a very fun idea. Do I agree with my idea? Probably not. But I do think it's fun to kind of, you know, play it out, figure it out.
Well, if Christian is the winner, we will be playing back this clip right here to say that you called it, okay? You saw it
Yes,
coming before anyone.
exactly. You get it.
So, going on in the episode, we jump over to some of the other tribes, and we see that Jonathan is trying to pull together his coalition of the OG Callow tribe in the form of Jonathan, Camilla, Dee, and Charlie. But Dee doesn't like how that sounds. Dee's like a little bit wary of Jonathan and Charlie, right? So then we see Dee moving over to another potential alliance of Dee, Rizzo, Camilla, and who am I missing? Who am I missing? Suri. Uh, I love the drama here. I We haven't spent as much time with this tribe, but seeing these two different coalitions, obviously we see which one comes out at the end of the episode, but it was very interesting to see the balance between these two tribes. What do you think of these groupings?
Yeah, these groupings are really interesting. I think that trying to bring together Old Callow, I think was an uphill battle here because I think that in a returning player season, especially when there are pre-existing relationships, when there are pre-existing ideas, preconceived notions of these people, relying on original tribal trust and original tribal unity, I think it's an uphill battle because really you just started being a tribe. We're on day 11, right? You were
Right.
only a tribe for like 6 days, 5 days. Yet some of these people have known each other for a long time. Some of these people have preconceived notions of each other. I bet you Camilla and Dee have met. I bet you, they've all met Suri. And I think that but there's also this idea of people wanting to work with Suri, people having an idea of how they want to play the game. And so I think that relying on, these original tribes is, I guess, on paper, a good idea, but it just doesn't work in a returning player season like this, in my opinion. We also have, obviously Dee went far in her original season with her original tribe, her Reba 4. She went very far, but really it was just because she didn't know anybody and she they clicked. They won a lot, so they got time to know each other.
Mhm.
But if she doesn't click with her original tribe, then why would she again work with them? But I mainly want to bring in Camilla here because Ryan, my partner, brought something up last night that is a very good um, observation, I think. Camilla has already done like working with the beefcakes. She's already worked with Kyle and Joe and David. She's already had this relationship on her season. I don't think she would want to do that again. And we saw that. She chose the women in Rizzo. She did not choose Rick. Who was it? Rick,
Jonathan and
Jonathan and
Charlie.
Charlie. Now, I'm
Yeah.
not I'm not necessarily calling Rick and Charlie like beefcakes, but it is a male alliance, and she would have been the only woman in that alliance. It just it doesn't feel like that's the road she wants to go down this season. We'll see if that changes, but I loved that this dichotomy. I loved that Camilla was in the middle making the decision because on her original season, Kyle, I mean, she was kind of in the middle, but it was because of Kyle. And Kyle, they would make decisions together, but it ultimately ended up that it benefited Kyle the most. So I'm really happy that we're seeing Camilla in the middle of these decisions. And I think she made the right decision.
Yeah, and it's so fun to get more of Camilla's perspective this episode, right? She, as well as many of the women this season, has gotten much more of a quieter edit. We haven't heard much out of her. But this episode, I thought we got a lot of great confessionals out of Camilla, seeing her comment on everyone and the amount of cuts that we had to Camilla just brooding and looking around and calculating. It feels like Camilla has some solid equity in terms of going far and doing well this season based on the edit that I'm seeing so far. And I think you're spot on. I think you're spot on. No way she wants to go work with Jonathan and Charlie when she's got people. She wants to be in the Black Widow Brigade. She wants to scheme with Suri and Dee. I think that's perfect for her. And Rizzo, being the feminist king he is, apparently, is going to fit right into that all girls alliance. Speaking of Rizzo, we see that he gets along with Dee really well this episode, and had me thinking in a lot of ways. Dee is kind of the combination between Sophie and Savannah, his two number ones from his previous season. Dee and Sophie, they're both from Miami, they're both Hispanic, and then Savannah is the winner of her season, obviously, as well as Dee. They both have that kind of cutthroat competitive attitude. I think it makes a lot of sense that Dee and Rizzo would be working together. Something I didn't see coming, but it seems like a perfect fit.
I totally agree. And I also think that, we see in D kind of, I think you're totally right, like a combination of Savannah and Sophie. One thing that I think that Savannah was not the best at in her season was her social game, whereas Sophie's social game was incredible. And I think that one thing that D really is good at is combining the strategic and the social together. And we also know that Savannah was a challenge beast, and D also is a pretty big challenge beast. So we're seeing, exactly, I think you're exactly right, seeing like a combination of his two number ones in one person here. And I love this. I love this group so, so, so much. I was at a watch party last night with Kyle, and who was I talking to? I was talking to Oh, it's gonna kill me. Oh, I think I was talking to Kelly Novan, or maybe I was talking to Kyle. Whatever. I was talking to somebody, and they basically said they were talking with D, and they were like, "I don't know how I feel about Rizzo," and D said, "I don't know. I love Rizzo." So I think that Rizzo has this really amazing ability to, yeah, maybe be slightly off-putting at the very, very beginning. Like if his tribe went to tribal council first, he probably would have gone first. But
Mhm.
once he is with somebody, he is so outgoing and charismatic, and he really brings people in. We see it work with Suri of all people.
I
And I think
know.
that Rizzo has just this innate ability of like connecting with people. And I love seeing it happen not only on his original season, but also with these icons this season.
Yeah, I gotta give Rizzo some credit here because it seems like everyone goes in the same arc with Rizzo. They think he's ridiculous. They think he's annoying at first, and then over time, the arc happens, and everyone seems to be charmed by him. We saw in episode one, Colby was like not into Rizzo at first, right? And I thought, oh, this is great drama. Colby's gonna hate this kid. And then within one day, Colby is already seeing a younger version of himself within Rizzo. There's something very endearing about him. And later on, when we have Cerise saying, "My boy Rizzo has my back," and it seems like she's ready to lock in with Rizzo as well, I was shocked. Rizzo must have phenomenal social gameplay.
Yeah. And I think that, it's really interesting. This is the first time we're seeing Suri get some side. This is the first time we're seeing Suri get like a kind of advantage. And I think that it's really interesting that the first time she really has an advantage, she's like, well, I'm going to share this information and I'm going to share it with Rizzo. And she hasn't told anybody else yet. She hasn't told her original alliance of Emily, Christian, and Rick. She hasn't told anybody. And the only person that knows is Ozzy because Ozzy was the one that gave it to her. So this is a very interesting dynamic. I kind of love this idea of those two going to the end together, Rizzo and Suri, because I think then Suri would win. But either way, I think that would be an incredible outcome.
Yeah, and Sari is one of the more interesting position people so far. Because Jonathan and Charlie, leading up to this episode or leading up to this vote, they thought they were working with her, and then of course she still has something with Christian, Emily back on the other tribe, and now that she's working with Rizzo and the girls, Sari's sitting pretty at this point. I think since they didn't take the shot at her in the first episode, now she's wormed her way in, as we would all hope, with her Sari magic. Jumping over to our third tribe, I'm curious how you feel about this grouping because we have Coach walking in his honor and integrity Zoom alliance, right? In the form of Coach, Joe, and Colby. Yes, your face is already saying it all. Of course, we saw Coach knighting Joe and Colby with their own special titles this episode. What do you think of the honor and integrity alliance?
Okay, I have two thoughts here. Firstly, I really, and I've gone on record saying this, I don't like it when people talk about having honor and integrity in Survivor. I think that you can play a loyal game in Survivor. That is very, very possible. You can play a very, I'm loyal to this one person. I'm loyal to a couple of people. We've seen it been done a million times over, playing a loyal game and succeeding. You cannot have, you cannot spout honor and integrity, and then not make somebody mad. I'm so sorry. You're gonna piss somebody off because you are not going to be honorable the entire time. You are not going to be able to have integrity in a game like Survivor the entire time. You can play with honor and integrity in football. You can play with honor and integrity in basketball or baseball or honestly, like really any sport. But Survivor is different because you're playing with people's emotions. You're not just trying to score a goal. You're trying to jump over somebody else to be successful. And yes, like I've said, we've seen loyal players win. Kyle being an example, D being an example. A lot of people can play a loyal game and win the game, but if you say that you're honorable and you have integrity, it's just going to come back to bite you. And I think it just pisses people off. So I'm not a huge fan of it, first of all. I also think it's ironic that there is a, rumor about the Zoom alliance, and then those are the people that are doing saying honor and integrity. That is ironic to me. That being said, I loved this segment. I want Coach knighting people on every single season. Like that was incredible. It was not on my Survivor 50 bingo card, and yet I loved it. It was so funny.
Yeah, any excuse to have Coach giving somebody a new title, right? I'll take
Yeah.
it. It would be great if Coach can title everybody once we get to the merge. That would be awesome as far as I'm concerned. And it was funny watching Colby. You could tell that he was like 50% in, 50% out. Like he was like, is this guy being serious? But like I said, 3.0 Colby, I think, was willing to just have fun with it
Yeah.
and not get bogged down in how like ridiculous and cringy Coach is. And, from heroes and villains to now having an honor and integrity alliance, we have a bit of a enemies to lover plot between the two of them. So
Yes.
I like that as well. I'm not a fan of the honor and integrity alliance. That being said, I'm fearful that they will be quite successful because three people that are each other is a pretty rare thing to come by in Survivor. And so I just don't know that I see another group of three or even four people that seem so ride or die, right? That I think are truly not going to betray each other. But yeah.
Here's I to be Emily flipping on you to push back on that a little bit. I do feel like though a three is or four is incredibly powerful in Survivor and almost to the point of too powerful.
Mm.
We see David versus Goliath having to eat each other because they three and overt three is a very big deal. Now, granted, I don't know how overt they are with this alliance. I think that people know about it. I could be wrong. But I think that if people like Camilla and Dee and Suri see this group of four, because really it's Jonathan's a part of it too. So I
Yeah.
think, I think, so see, this group of essentially four dudes trying to, dictate what's going on. I think that they're going to step in and maybe say something about it and send one of them home. I could be wrong, but I really think that there are people here who are going to want to fight against that. I don't think that Camilla wants to play with honor and integrity this season. I think that she wants to actively work against it, just to name an example. I think there are more people like that. And I think that with a season like this, I think we'll see more voting blocks and less, big alliances, but we'll see. We'll see how it all breaks down with a 17-person merge.
Yeah, right. Because we can get all types of breakdowns and groupings heading to tribal that might protect them. I don't know. We'll see. And I will say, between the four of them, I don't think either of them are known for their subtlety within their alliances. So
True.
you might be onto something that they are going to be too big as a grouping. All right. So after this, we cut over to a drama filled moment when Charlie is hanging over Rizzo while he's sleeping in the boat, kind of waiting for him to wake up. And then he pretty aggressively, in my opinion, challenges Rizzo, asking him about who he told about the Billie Eilish boomerang idol, kind of sparking a whole feud between them, Operation Bad Blood for the episode. What did you think about this? Whose team are you on, Charlie or Rizzo? Talk to me.
Yeah, so I have to be on Team Charlie because he was on my draft pool.
Mm,
So very sad that I'm down to only Suri. Really brutal for
okay.
me here. I had four people. We started with four people, and my people were Charlie, Suri, Charlie, Jenna, Lewis, and Savannah. So you win some, you lose some, and I'm definitely losing this one. But I think that this really brought back some memories of Shannon from season 49
Okay.
talking game really early on in the morning. I forget who she was talking to. I think it was maybe Jawan or maybe Sage. I can't remember. But in this, in Survivor, the game is happening 24/7. But the thing is you can't really overtly play the game 24/7 because if you're playing the game all the time, it brings too much heat onto you. And so I think what happened here is Charlie couldn't sleep and he just had his gears turning, his gears turning, his gears turning, and he just needed to get it out. He needed to say something. I've been in this position all too many way too many times. Like I'll be, at work and I call Ryan and I go, I need to talk to you about this, blah, 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 blah. I just needed to get it off my chest because I'm thinking about it. I'm stewing on it too much.
Hmm.
And I think this is exactly what happened with Charlie. And I think that this definitely was the problem here. And I don't know that Rizzo wanted to go against Charlie until this moment. And maybe, things were edited out, but I think that, when people can see your gears turning all of the time, and especially turning to try to put you in a bad spot, that's when everybody must target that person again or back to that person. So I think that it was a little too early on in the morning. That being said, I know that there are some seasons that they wake up and when they do their strat chat is in the early morning, but
Hmm.
it just seemed like Rizzo was still sleeping and he didn't want to talk, and I think that that just rubbed him the wrong way. And obviously, we saw how it ended up, but you can't play the game all the time even though you have to.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. It was definitely a rude awakening for Rizzo, especially because that belt looked pretty comfortable, if I'm being honest. Like after seeing that, I think that's where I would be sleeping personally. But yeah, I feel like in the case with Charlie, he's coming in with one of the biggest chips on his shoulder out of anybody. And this gets into the conversation that they have at Tribal Council later, and the cost and benefit analysis with seeing your season play back. Is it an advantage? Is it not? And this sparked a debate between my wife and I on the couch. Do you think it's an advantage to see how you're received? In the case of Rizzo, he made it to Final Four, got out at fire. Sure, he maybe would gain some more insight, but I think he would stand to burden his game more if he had seen it back and seen the way that people reacted to him behind the scenes. I think him coming in with like a clean record essentially is actually great for his game. And the opposite side of that is Charlie, who seems like he is so burdened with his previous game that he isn't able to think straight. I mean, I feel bad for Charlie that when he sees the season back, his entire arc and narrative is centered around just being like offended at Rizzo over an assumption that he's making about Rizzo's season. This is like dark Charlie, and it's upsetting to see because I love Charlie. Like I was so high on Charlie from his season, but seeing him be so bogged down in his previous season and like really have blinders on was disappointing to see.
Yeah, and I think that this also the very important thing here. So, funny story. Side I'll say it quickly, but when I got to go to Fiji, and it was a very very fun trip. And when we were there, our night two was day 11. So the day night two was when people were being voted out of Survivor, and the people
Mm.
were Angelina and Charlie. And we that night we got to see some fire dancers. We had a great dinner on the beach. It was very fun. And then afterwards, everybody, all of the fans got into a circle and we all wrote down who we thought was going to be the first person voted out and who we thought was going to win. I put down Q as the first person voted out, and I put down Tiffany as my winner pick. I think Ryan put down Stephanie as the first person voted out, and I can't remember who he put as his winner. Maybe Aubrey or somebody as his winner pick. I can't remember who he said as his winner pick. But the overwhelming majority of people that were there said Charlie was going to win. And every single person, like honestly, almost every single person said that they thought Charlie was going to win. Ryan and I were standing 10 toes down on the side, going, you guys, he's going in with such a big target. And that big target is because of how much people talked about his game, how he should have won. And saying that somebody should have won is almost worse than actually winning the game. Because if you say that somebody should have won the game, not only does the public perception of you, does the public think that, hey, this person is so good at Survivor that really they were robbed of this, but then that person then thinks, oh my God, I should have won, and I have to now prove that I should have won. And you go in not just with like a defending your title, but defending that everybody defending you was right. And it's almost way more pressure than anybody else. And I think that he kind of went in with so much more baggage than anybody else. It was again an uphill battle because the opposite here is that Rizzo has no baggage. Rizzo did not even get voted out of Survivor. He got fired out of Survivor.
Right.
He got to vote for the people that he wanted to vote for, but nobody had to turn on him. And he didn't have to see how anybody was talking about him behind his back. He didn't have to see the public's reaction to him. And so I think that and Brian and I were literally out there going, guys, you're wrong. Guys, you're wrong. And We were right. It feels so good to be right. But I'm sad that Charlie was like I love Charlie. I'm really sad that Charlie was gone. But it's just like anybody in Charlie's would have done the exact same thing because when you have to, it's like almost like a younger sibling trying to live up to like a perfect older sibling, but Charlie is the perfect older sibling that he's trying to live up to. It's just this, unforgiving situation that he was in, and unfortunately, he got voted out. But yeah, I agree with you. So long story long, I agree with you.
Yeah, that's interesting. And what that makes me think of is how, like, the different stages that people are coming into this game with, right? There are other people that are runner up. There's other people in this cast that you can make the argument should have won their season, but nobody was it just a couple seasons ago, right? He's almost in this worst case scenario where he has all these expectations, this runner up energy should have won, and just enough seasons out that he hasn't gotten over it yet. There's no foresight. People from David versus Goliath, they've had plenty of time to unpack this, with the public perception and everything like that, and are maybe not being bogged down by it. Oh man, I find myself, even though I didn't like anything I saw out of Charlie this season, I do want to see him come back for a third season because I hate this taste that's being left in my mouth for Charlie. Hopefully, we get a chance to see Charlie redeem himself, at least in the court of public opinion, and hopefully Rizzo isn't on that season for Charlie's sake.
Yes, yes, I agree.
Yes, so Operation Bad Blood is happening on one camp. And I'll kind of skip over the challenge, but as we know, now two tribes are going to tribal, only one safe tribe. Thank goodness it's the Honor and Integrity Alliance that is safe from the vote, right? Um, but of course, on the other side, we are sending back Emily, Christian, and Ozzy, who have been at every single tribal this season, and the rest of their tribe. And of course, the tension over there is Ozzy pressuring Christian into giving him his shot in the dark. I am curious, what do you think about just this as a play? Like, do you think this is a good use of the shot in the dark? Is this inventive? What do you think about this?
It's one of the reasons why I like the shot in the dark as an addition to the game, because everybody has this same playing chip. The shot in the dark is a good addition because the uses are not just what the use is on paper. We've seen many people use this. I do think it's a really interesting thing because I think in the past when we've seen this, it's been like, for example, Andy volunteering to give up a shot in the dark, saying, "Hey, will you trust me? Here's my shot in the dark." It's weird seeing it from the other way of somebody asking for the shot in the dark. I don't hate it though. I genuinely don't hate it. But what I really want to bring attention to here is that Emily saved Christian. I really truly believe that the only reason why Christian is in the game is because of Emily telling him about the Aussie situation. Because I think that Christian genuinely thought, "Hey, we're moving on," right? I think that, maybe he had some doubt in the back of his mind. But I think that he was like, "You know what? I look at the game in an analytical way." And I think that he thinks that everybody looks at the game like that. And I think that, hey, we talked it out. And, he understands why I did this. So they hugged it out and everything is fine. I don't think he really felt like he had to give him the shot in the dark. Emily coming to Christian, number one, Emily has a good relationship with Ozzy. And so Ozzy feels comfortable enough to share, "Hey, I think that I can't trust Christian." So then Emily can go to Christian and be the intermediary and say, "Hey, you really have to show him. You have to show him that you want to work with him in some way because otherwise it's you." And I think that that truly saved Christian. We saw Emily do this, a very similar thing in her season where everybody was voting for Caleb. Caleb didn't
Mm,
know it was going to be him, and she goes, "You have to play your shot in the dark. You have
mm.
to," and it works. And so I think that it is a very interesting, relationship, and I think that Emily is the reason why Christian is still in the game.
So you think if Emily didn't come to Christian with that information, you think that Christian would not have given a shot in the dark, which Ozzy just would have been revving up, ready to go. Like that would have been the final straw for Ozzy, right? That's interesting because, yeah, Ozzy, at the end of the day, he still values honor and integrity, right? Because when Christian looks him in the eye and says, like, "I'm trusting you, like, please, please, please," I think it's hard for Ozzy to then betray Christian at that point. Ozzy almost, I think you're right. Ozzy would have voted him out if he didn't receive the shot in the dark. That's an interesting analysis. And Emily, who has been having a chaotic last few episodes here, turns around and plays a very rational, calm episode here and keeps herself continuing in a very good position, right? she still has inroads with Ozzy and Christian, who maybe not, but might be in a tight alliance, but seemingly are working together for the time being. So Emily, surprisingly, is continuing to be in a pretty good spot.
Yeah, I think that she's very good at playing that kind of game. She's good at, I think she spirals. And then when she spirals, she is like, well, I shouldn't have done that. And then she fixes it. And then she's able to look at the game a little bit more rationally. That's not to say she's not going to spiral again, but I think that that's how she plays the game. And I actually think it works for her, honestly.
Yeah. Honestly, Emily, she's in too good of a spot for how crazy her gameplay has been this season. So good on Emily. I want to touch down for a moment for this moment between Rizzo and Camilla, where Rizzo tells Camilla that, hey, on Kyle's way out, we were number ones, we were gonna work together, and he says, if you can find Camilla and work with her, she'll take care of you. I felt like this was a pretty fun lie. This is the kind of thing I feel like I would come up with if I was on the island. How do you feel about this lie from Rizzo and how Camilla took it?
I thought it was really fun. I don't know if Camilla fully believes it, but that being said, I think it's a really really fun lie, and I think that Camilla clearly wants to work with him, so it doesn't really matter if she believes it or not because she genuinely is like, I think that right now this is who I want to work with. I think that that is I like that Rizzo brings this kind of gameplay. It's really chaotic but also thought out. And I liked that he thought about this. And also, I will say, I think that Camilla is also lying really well this episode because we see that, Rizzo tells her about the Billie Eilish Boomerang Idol, and then Charlie also tells her about the Billie Eilish Boomerang Idol, and Camilla goes, I'm sorry, the what? And she lies so well. We saw a lot of good lies
Perfect.
this episode. We saw a lot of good lies this episode.
Yeah, no, I loved how it's funny how Rizzo beat Charlie to the punch here, and it seemingly really matters. I mean, as far as we can tell, based on the lighting and everything, this could have been 30 minutes apart, as
Yeah.
far as we know. But whoever gets there first with delicate information like this, it clearly matters. I think Camilla probably would have leaned with Rizzo and the girls anyways, but according to her own confessional, it seems to have made the difference. And I know we're already giving Rizzo some flowers here during this episode, but whether or not Camilla believes it, this is just another example of why Rizzo is such a unique and fun player. He is thinking out of the box, the way that he uses his idol last season. He comes up with these wacky ideas that we truly haven't seen before. I feel like Rizzo deserves to be praised as one of the more innovative players, at least in the new era.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think he's really fun, and I think that people on the internet, he's very divisive, but I think that's a really good thing in a Survivor player. I think that that means he's doing something different, he's doing something wacky, and I don't know. I'm a Rizzo fan.
Yeah, and I'm like everyone else, by the way. I did not want to like Rizzo when he was first introduced to us, but like Colby, like Suri, like everyone, I have found myself charmed and won over by his charisma. So the Riz God, you got another one in me. So now over into the tribal. We got a double tribal here. I didn't see this coming. Okay. Jeff gives his best impressions, and I didn't know that, add this to the basket of talents that Jeff has, rapping, doing these rock and roll songs. I didn't know that he was an impressionist as well. Did you like Jeff's impressions this episode?
I thought they were ridiculous, but they were so good. Um, I felt like it was weird that that was the group he wanted to do the impressions with because neither of those people were on the tribe, in that tribe. But I still think that they were really, really, really good. Genuinely, like I was like, man, is that Colby sitting there? Like he was so good at it. I just am like, why? But also, I don't hate it, but I don't hate seeing Jeff have a little bit of fun. Like I know that some people despise it, but I'm just like, whatever, Jeff, you're being silly.
I enjoyed it as, someone who does improv myself, enjoys impressions. I enjoyed it a lot. I wonder how much more he possibly has under his belt, because I do think he uniquely picked the three people on the cast right now that have very specific and identifiable speech patterns. Like,
Mhm.
I don't think he could do an impression of Camilla or like of Tiffany, someone who doesn't have this like unique vocal presence. Maybe Coach. Maybe we could see him doing a Coach later on this season. I think that would be fun. But I was charmed by it. I like the silly Jeff moments personally. I thought it was more impressive than the rap, by the way.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. It was definitely more impressive than the rap, definitely.
But yeah, so now once we get to the votes, obviously Angelina goes home next at the hands of Christian himself. Is it safe to say that Christian is the Goliath Slayer? Is that his title now?
I love that. That's so good. Maybe. I think maybe. Yeah, I mean, this vote was sad. We didn't get a lot of Angelina content, and I think that sucks. But I think it was the right move for Christian and Emily. I think it was potentially the right move for everybody else. I just love Angelina, and I'm just sad to see her go.
Yeah, and especially this episode, I like seeing her at Tribal. She is so poised. It's a shame that we got so little of her this season because every time she does talk, I think I'm like, wait a minute, Angelina seems like she's really savvy when it comes to politicking and speaking. I feel like she's really well spoken, and it's a shame that we didn't get to see more of that. Again, another add that to the crimes of this season in terms of how they're spotlighting their woman cast.
I know.
However, then moving on to the other tribe, it's the bad blood comeuppets between Rizzo and Charlie. And of course, Charlie ends up going home with a lovely splattering of Taylor Swift references from Rizzo, just to add to the dunking on Charlie effect here. The fact that he out Swifty referenced Charlie at the end, I thought was gold.
That was a great, I love a good voting confessional. I love a good voting confessional, and that was definitely a very good voting confessional. I loved the Taylor Swift reference after Taylor Swift reference, like genuinely so funny. It was funny. I really wanted Charlie to stay. I didn't want it to be Rizzo either. That's the problem with returning player seasons, but I was like, man, this is so funny, but also not Charlie. Oh no, not Charlie.
Ultimately, I was very happy because I was worried that Christian was going home. And then, based on how they developed the beef between them, I was worried that Rizzo was going home. And both of them are safe. So, from an editing standpoint, I felt a great catharsis. And this isn't
Yeah.
usually how I feel. I'm usually like, no, how dare you? But today, the people I was rooting for managed to make it out through another day. So yeah, that about wraps up the episode. What do you think overall about the episode? Is there anything else that jumped out at you that we didn't quite cover?
I loved the episode. I mean, like I said at the beginning, I love this season. I think it's a very, very good season. I think that between you and me and everyone listening, I think that the IMDb rating from episode four is a little ridiculous. I think it was ratings bombed just because people were mad about it, and I get it. But I think saying that the Mike White blindside in a 3-2-1 vote is being the worst episode in Survivor history is actually crazy. We've seen some really bad things happen on the show, and that's better than that. Okay. Um,
Right.
and I think that overall, like these players are bringing a lot of really fun great moments to this show, to this season. And the big thing is, I mean, you brought it up, like women are being under-edited. The five worst edited people this season, four of those are women, and I think they have an average of like four confessionals per person or something. Tiffany still only has two confessionals in 5 episodes, and I understand that she's on a winning tribe, but so is Coach. Like like there are people who, and yeah, I know Coach is he's spitting, great thoughts all the time. But, we have time, we have the resources to give these people. I mean, you cast them for a reason. If you didn't want to cast them, it could have been a 20-person season. But you cast 24 people. You need to make sure that we can hear from everybody. And we're just not getting that. And I think that if we don't hear from Tiffany, if we don't hear from Dee or Camilla or Chrissy, or any of the other women for that matter in these future episodes, I'm really not going to be happy. And I will say, not getting a confessional. I don't think she got a confessional. In the episode that Angelina goes home is criminal. Her best friend just got voted out. We're not getting a confessional about how she feels about that. I think that that's a bad thing. But I think that overall, this season is making me happy. But I can't be 100% happy all the time.
No, yeah, and I agree. I mean, that has been the emerging talking point of the season, potentially one of the major blemishes on what otherwise is a great season. But if this is something that continues to be the case, and if the delta just gets larger and larger, it will be probably a stain on the season forever. So I'm with you. I'm standing with the women and Rizzo. I
And
want
Rizzo.
more woman confessionals on Survivor 50, especially from someone like Tiffany, who I think should have a pretty unique perspective on the people that she's with on the beach on, you know? So yeah, I agree that that is holding the season back just a little bit. But
Yeah.
overall, what a fantastic season. I'm love to be a Survivor fan, especially now that I'm online interacting with people like yourself who love the series as well.
Yeah, I love it. And, I do think that being able to talk about it online has really enhanced my viewership, enhanced my enjoyment of Survivor. I didn't know that that was possible, but I really love, even if it's getting into arguments and being like, "That's crazy, that's so wrong." Like, I think that it's still really fun to see the, wider range of opinions and thoughts that people have about the same show that we're all watching. So yeah, it brings me so much joy, and I'm loving the season, and I can't wait to see what episode 6 brings.
Right on. Well, for my massive audience back home, Tag, do you want to go ahead and drop your socials and the different podcasts and whatnot that you are a part of?
Absolutely. So you can just find me pretty much anywhere at Tegwyth, Tegwyth. The benefit of having a very weird name is that I get a built-in handle. A thing that my parents did not foresee when they were naming me in the 90s. Yeah, so find me there. And then I also I'm a specialist on the Survivor Specialists. I do a podcast every Monday called Matt Chat. And where, I chat about the episode, but also what's coming up with Survivor players and fun people along the way. This week is really exciting. I've got Eric Reichenbach. So it's going to be a really, really fun episode, I think. So you guys should make sure to tune into that. TBD on the time, but it'll be on Monday. But yeah,
Awesome.
I'm having so much fun chatting about the season, and I'm so happy that I was able to talk to you, Darius.
Very cool. I watched your episode recently when you interviewed Colin. I forget his last name, but he runs
Oh
Threads,
yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Very fun episode. So I can attest she is a fantastic podcaster, as you guys all learn by the time you get to this point of the episode. Teg, thank you so much for joining me. Again, I'm so honored. It really means the world that you took time to hop on my podcast. Can't wait to talk to you again soon. Let's enjoy Survivor 50. And yeah, thank you again, and I'll talk to you later.
Thank you so much.
All right, bye.